We're on the eve of history. 1010's here. Tesla's calling it We Robot. Optimus might get friends. We might get FSD supervised on the semi. We might get a Robotaxi. Well, I know we're going to get a Robotaxi. And who knows what else we're going to get. Do you think this will really be a history game-changing moment for Tesla, or will this be another announced delay?
It's finally here. I think I'm optimistic that we're actually going to see products delivered in the market. There's so much momentum in this space right now. I don't think Tesla's any different. There's certainly enough chatter about what can and can't be announced next week, physically and capability-wise. I haven't looked to see, the market has been so strong in general. It's hard to tell whether Uber and Lyft have been discounting the risk that Elon comes up there and then just drops a robo-taxi announcement in their lap. But I think that's certainly, among, as always, the realm of possibilities. And remember, this thing was supposed to have happened months ago. So I think they're ready to do something. How about you? What do you think?
They're ready to do something, but my question I have is, there's chatter going around that they're going to run the Robotaxi on a closed course. If that's true, we want to see it in real world environments. Then there's interesting chatter, this is all unconfirmed, that Tesla will introduce an FSD supervised Robotaxi with a driver to compete with Uber. That's interesting. If that happens, does that act as a market catalyst for Tesla and a negative for Uber?
Supervised meaning there's a safety driver in the seat.
That's a nice way to put it, yes.
I mean, well, first of all, Grayson, thank you for coming to the Lightshed 5-year anniversary party. So you had an opportunity to meet a lot of institutional investors that you had not met before. And so I'm sure you were kind of plugging them to find out what their expectations are. What was your takeaway on how high their hopes were heading into next week and just in for autonomy in general?
There is a very interesting divide in the market. The individuals that I met at your party, by the way, what a fantastic view at the edge on the 101st floor. Lightshed does it right, folks. If you get invited to a Lightshed party, go. And your partner, Rich Greenfield, gave great commentary along the way as he was host of the evening. Speaking with the large institutional investors that you invited, and you so kindly invited me, there's a divide in the market where Silicon Valley and the venture side is pulling back a little from investing in autonomy and going all in on AI, as we saw the latest OpenAI funding round, where on institutional side, it's funny. Oh, I'm in there for 500. Oh, 500. No, 500 million. Whoa. Okay. We're talking big dollars with big commitments that are coming from the Wall Street side. Wall Street institutional is getting very, very bullish on autonomy, where the Valley is pulling back. That is an interesting trend. Do you see that continuing?
I think it's great that you were able to attend and have direct access to these people to get a sense of what I've previously described as an increased number of questions on the earnings call about autonomy, meaning like Uber and Lyft. But those are sell-side analysts. These are the people with the money that do the investing. And now you can see why those questionings are happening and where that optimism is. I don't think that in that community, people think that Elon can deliver a product in the near term that's going to blow up Uber or Lyft's business model. So, Elon is a great salesperson. He's a great showman. So I think if some of the speculation about, even with a safety driver, gets people thinking more about an incremental competitor to Uber in the individual markets, that's going to be interesting. So I think, again, that just underscores the importance of next week's event.
I'd say, from my standpoint, if they do launch an FSD supervised service, you're going to get a lot of individuals that are curious, that are going to want to experience technology. That could act as a catalyst.
100%. And this goes back to last week and me talking about driving in a Waymo in San Francisco and the kind of the light bulb experience it has. If that extends, even with a safety driver, with Teslas in other markets, who knows where it'll launch. That is certainly going to get people thinking. And then if Elon sets a deadline and says, okay, safety driver now, but as we deal with different communities, and maybe if his candidate wins the election, accelerating the ability to drop safety drivers in some markets, again, it creates that risk. Stocks don't always have to react on what's happening in the moment. If there's some visibility of a risk that develops on the horizon, even if it's Elon promising it, and some people maybe don't believe that he delivers on time, but he ultimately does deliver, that does potentially create what's known as an overhang, otherwise like a sell-off or the inability of some of these stocks to move forward. So, yeah, I think if that in fact gets announced, we'll people will be there to test it and give their opinion. What about just the physical car itself, or because I think, Grayson, you had shared with me a tweet that was talking about a two-door with two-person or something like that. And how do you think that changes things? Because you have very strong opinions about Zoox. People have strong opinions about iPhones and how they physically have to change to get people to upgrade. How much does that matter if something new gets revealed?
This goes back to the Lightshed party I was speaking with a SpaceX investor, actually, and it was the September recap tweet that it was put on the Tesla account. And owning a Model 3, I was like, wait a second, there's not two lines, there's only one line. And the way that the curvature believes me that it is going to be a two-passenger vehicle, could that also be the Model 2 that they're teasing? If it is, then it's going to invoke the direct comparison to Vern, the Croatian autonomous vehicle startup that was spun out of Bugatti. Then it's going to say, oh, is Tesla copying Vern? That's going to raise a lot of interesting questions there. And if Tesla does do a two-passenger robotaxi, what does that say about the market where most other competitors are focused on a three-passenger and a four-passenger vehicle? What does Tesla know, or what do they assume that they know?
I don't know. It's fascinating. Maybe there's, longer battery life, smaller vehicle, larger battery, less weight, or it's hard to know. I tend to think that you'd want more capacity just to increase the options that you have. Maybe it's the size of the car and places that it can go, and it'll be a good question to see how that goes. You also need some space for luggage and other things, or maybe the two car gets back to what we've talked about, the real future, where private vehicles are autonomous and you can send your car to go pick up items for you at the local restaurant or whatever it is. And again, then you'd want maybe a smaller vehicle to do that, cheaper to manufacture, a lot of factors that I think would play into that. I mean, the other end of the market is, I think there was also a tweet on maybe something in trucking. Am I right about that, or am I misremembering?
You're right about that. Tesla's doing ground truth testing. They have the Tesla Semi out there with the Luminar LiDAR on top, and they're testing it.
Wait a minute, a Tesla vehicle with a Luminar with a LiDAR sensor on it. What is that? Can that happen? Does Elon know that that's happening at his company? A LiDAR sensor on a vehicle? What's going on here?
It's a ground truth testing sensor to test the system for accuracy.
Just testing then. Okay.
3 years ago, I'm taking my daughter to school in Palm Beach, and I see a Tesla Model Y with 6 Luminar LiDARs on it. I call an executive at Luminar, remove his name because he got yelled at when he confirmed the model, and I tweeted out the model of the LiDAR spotted there. And that spotted all the speculation. Tesla privately got back to me and said it was just testing. The same thing they're doing for the Semi. And one of the investors that I met at the Lightshed party was speculating that they are going to introduce FSD for the Semi, Supervised. Then I spoke to a world-renowned autonomous trucking engineer, and he's saying he's hearing rumblings that they could potentially look to license FSD Semi to the global truck OEMs. That's an interesting catalyst right there. That opens up a whole new market for Tesla that I don't believe is priced into the stock currently.
I mean, all of this is just reminiscent of SpaceX, where they put up this capacity in space, and it starts with just home broadband, then it's airplanes, then it's cell phones. And when you make a technology that works, then clearly you leverage it across different use cases. Thankfully, you set me up for a great meeting with Kodiak, and those guys certainly understand the opportunity in that market, and there's plenty of opportunity there. There's other companies that are going after this space. So yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly great that Elon comes in. I mean, do you think the risk, though, is that Elon comes in with this technology, licensed or otherwise, and basically just sucks up all the opportunity in the market? Or is there an opportunity for multiple winners in trucking?
There's 100% opportunity for multiple winners in trucking. Trucking is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Tesla, from what the engineers tell me, and obviously they have not been in the Semi running FSD, so they can't give me a true engineering perspective. They believe at some point that you will be able to drive an 18-wheeler with camera only. They believe at this point, for at least the next 5 years, you're going to need a multiple redundant driving set from a sensor perspective. I agree with that.
I hear you. I just think the difference with, after getting in that Kodiak truck and seeing the expense that is invested in the redundancy of braking and steering and all these things, and how that the incremental cost of the LiDAR is less of an issue relative to this concept of what we want to happen in automobiles and maybe delivery vehicles, where it's just a much more of a marginal expense than a critical cost as part of the equation.
Right, because if you look at the cost of the redundant Bendex and the various different in the chassis, you're at $500,000 right out the door before you start adding on all the sensors. So I don't see it as a big issue at that point.
Yeah, $500,000. And what do you think Waymo is spending on JAGs and perhaps Zeekrs if they're available? Nowhere near that.
Engineers, word on the street is $550 a Jag with all the sensors and all the hardware, including the vehicle cost.
With the hardware.
But over time, that's going to come down. And you got to love Waymo's lobbyists. They get the exemption in the commerce thing to bring on the Zeekr vehicle. Waymo puts out a tweet. They're going to start testing it in the fall in all the cities where they're operating. And that obviously that vehicle is made in China.
That tweet came out this week that they're testing the Zeekr already. So full speed ahead.
Yes, but public relations campaign nightmare. You get one lobbying group out there and saying that you're riding in a Chinese vehicle, they'll take you hostage. You've got a very big political relations problem.
Take you hostage. I mean, look, Grayson, I will say this. It's been quiet on TikTok. And my other takeaway from our party, from talking to a lot of people in the media space, is there's still a fair amount of concern on TikTok losing their court cases, going to the Supreme Court, losing and getting banned, and perhaps some additional escalation that exists between our countries. And obviously that would potentially have a rollover effect on Apple, but also Zeekr and Waymo and their use of these products. But look, maybe their game plan is like the game plan is for TikTok, like where they do advertisements of a farmer using TikTok. Get usage out there, build some groundswell of support from American citizens who have tried and said, hey, this is great, we want to use this thing, this car, we like this car. Although the odd thing about that is just thinking through it, like, you have other options out there. You don't necessarily need to use. And the guy in the Zeekr market, or the woman in the Zeekr market, then aren't they like, why does San Francisco get the Jags and we get the Zeekrs? Have you seen pictures of these things? What is the quality? Is it like a Temu type quality, relative quality to the Jag, or are they going to be decent quality product?
It'll be a decent quality product. It's not a luxury product. Point blank, the Jaguar's a nicer vehicle. Well, I know you say that you like bigger vehicles, so you might like the Zeekr. I've said this many times publicly, and I'll say it again. I believe the Zeekr deal was a huge unforced error on Waymo's part. The fact that we're sitting here discussing how it could blow up is a negative sign. It was built for use and for cost savings. It wasn't built for luxury.
It depends how you define luxury, but yes, more room than that existed in the Jaguar is an issue. Rich, Brandon, and I, my partners over at Lightjet Partners, I'll have them all in San Francisco this week, so they have not been in a Waymo. I'm gonna get them in those Waymos, and I'm not gonna. Hopefully, they don't listen to this first, but I'm not gonna taint their view, and we'll see what they think of the comfort level of the Jag in San Fran and the drive itself.
Then we'll hear about it next week, and I got to hear Brandon drives you crazy in controlling the music when you're going around San Francisco.
I didn't think about that, right? Yeah, the music, the controlling the music was pretty easy in Waymo. I got to say that. I was trying to, when I was posting my videos of this, trying to pick a good song that would go with it. So that was fun to do. What else is going on in Cali these days? I mean, has Zoox made any progress? I think there was some, Gavin Newsom maybe made some news and vetoed some of the annoying laws that were being proposed. Can you give us what's the update on that in your old hometown?
My old hometown, which I'm happy I'm gone. I'll leave it at that. I'm very proud to have left many years ago. Governor Newsom continues to err on the side of the California economy, which I call the autonomy economy. Governor Newsom vetoed 3 very important bills. He vetoed the very controversial, which Scott Wiener introduced, vetoed, bye-bye. He vetoed AB 316, which would ban the heavy use of an autonomous truck weighing over 10,001 pounds. And he also banned another local control bill as it relates to autonomous vehicles. And then lo and behold, no surprise, an hour after that comes out a bombastic press release from organized labor, including the Teamsters, saying that we're going to bring the bill back next year. We will fight. We'll vote at the ballot box. Governor Newsom has 2 years left in office. So next year we expect another bill, another veto. So you're seeing that progress, but then on the East Coast, at least the stuff that I'm reading, the polling data that I'm seeing, the tide's turning towards automation when you have this East Coast port strike. A lot of people are talking towards automation. We want automation, especially if you go into the middle of the country or if you go into the unfortunate devastation we see in North Carolina. They can't get lumber because the ports are shut down. and you're going to have a political backlash that could actually lead to autonomy.
But that's exactly why they're striking, because they know that automation is coming. We've seen that technology deployed in other markets around the world. This is no different than the actors going on strike. And, maybe they'll get a win that they can show on paper. But look, it's inevitable. It's safer. It's more efficient. It's hard to get a certain number of workers and type of workers. So look, I mean, it gets back to, I guess, whether on a federal basis, under whoever the new administration is going to be, there can be overall federal laws that prevent some of these individual decisions getting made. Like if California was attempting, I don't know who was attempting that in California, to limit the weight of a truck that was autonomous, that's killing what is a tremendous opportunity in a trucking industry that's suffering from a shortage of drivers for something that is, by the best way to follow truth on things is where the money flows. But if you talk to the insurance people, a safer way to drive. So you're basically trying to prevent a safer way, something that allows truckers to be, effectively, do the jobs that they want to do, stay closer to home, solve a need that's in the market. It just seems crazy. So good for Gavin Newsom for stepping up. And, I don't know if California the California citizens that are left there want to elect politicians that are going to do that. I mean, I think they're just going to get left behind. It's not really on par with the technological advancements that exist in that state, but we'll see what happens.
It's sad because the technology is being built in California. It should be deployed in California. I lived there half my life. It's called the Golden State. It should be the Golden State that prospers, but yet there's all this undue regulation from bureaucrats and elected officials that are not allowing the technology to prosper. I would love to see an economic report if California let technology prosper, what the economic impact would be on the economy and the amount of jobs be created. I think it'd be pretty eye-opening.
There's been plenty of studies on areas that have embraced technology and the impact on employment in those areas. And it's been positive, not negative, right? Because other jobs and more jobs and economic growth is created. But sometimes facts don't mean much to some people.
Look at economic growth. Look at Austin. Austin embraced it. I remember when Mr. Dell, Michael Dell, started Dell. He was one of the only companies there in technology in Austin. And now look at it. It's a major tech hub. Tesla's there. Oracle has a large facility there. Apple has a facility there. Google has a facility there. I can go down Sand Hill Road with you and give you multiple names who's there. It's really been amazing how that city's grown.
Look, it's the right decision. We'll see. I mean, I think a lot of times we get concerned about people doing things, and I mean, this is also a state where they're just vandalizing robo delivery trucks and Waymos. I think there was another Waymo vandalized recently. Was that L.A. or I guess that was L.A. right before they've even really opened up rides there. So I don't know.
Sad. And then the unfortunate part, you're getting individuals that are teasing the vehicles, and when they're teasing them, they're stopping so they won't move for safety purposes, but then harassing women. That's got to stop. And the thing that, and I don't get, why is Waymo not teamed up with local law enforcement to put an end to the shenanigans and make an example out of somebody?
I have no comment there. I have a lot of questions about how crimes are dealt with in certain cities and localities and states, I guess. Let's shift back, though, to one thing that I thought was very interesting and perhaps a coincidence, but we talked last week about how with Tesla's big announcement and how it could be game-changing, that other companies, in order to try and gain some attention for themselves, might make announcements. And lo and behold, a day or two ago, I see that Waymo is launching in Austin. And Austin happens to be the home of the Gigafactory for Tesla. And I looked at the footprint of where the Waymo is going to be capable. I don't think it goes to the Gigafactory, although that would have been amazing to go visit the Gigafactory and show up in a Waymo. Do you think that was just coincidence? And this, I mean, obviously we knew Austin was going to be a market. This is an Uber market, by the way, so you don't need to wait for your approval code in the Waymo app. It'll be in the Uber app, which is great for underscoring what Dara has pitched as the opportunity for Waymo and autonomy. But is this a coincidence or just this is the normal timing?
It could be, but if you want to have a chuckle, the fact that Waymo announced it on X, which is owned by Elon Musk, is a little bit of a chuckle. They're using his platform to elevate their message.
We should have looked at the number of views on it. So I wonder if that was like deprioritized. Because I swear to God, sometimes if I'm a little bit too salty on Tesla or SpaceX, I think my views go down. There's like an auto deprioritization on the views. I'm kidding. Yeah, I don't know. And where are we in LA? Has Waymo opened that up, or do you still need a special code? I think it's probably still special code. So we're looking forward to that. Maybe that'll be next week's big announcement, where Waymo says opens up the app to everyone as opposed to just needing a special code. That would be great. If for our Waymo listeners, do it. That would be hilarious. Allow people to show up to the Tesla event in a Waymo. That would be great.
And it would keep my prediction. So I like that on the backside of that. With regards to Austin, I don't know if it was a coincidence or not. It was 210 days. I did the math since they first announced they were going to test in Austin to when they were opening commercial service. Going to be operating a 37-mile ODD. Maybe that's on par. And if that does hold, they announced Atlanta 170 days ago, which means Atlanta will come online Tuesday, November 12th. So if the timeline holds, November 12th in Atlanta, we know it's based roughly 200 days to bring a market online. That's the norm. Whether they did it coincidentally, we won't know until Atlanta comes online. Then we'll at least have some data set to look at.
Now, you know who else could try and, show up or use the spotlight of autonomy for next week to further their own gains is our good friends at Zoox. Next week is your opportunity to sign the long-awaited deal with Uber or Lyft. Grayson, will that happen next week? Will Zoox finally partner with one of the rideshare guys next week?
Unfortunately, no. It's sad. I want Zoox to succeed. The industry wants Zoox to succeed, but this mañana, delay, we're going to go at it alone is not working. Yes, you have the financial resources backing of Amazon, but you don't have the charisma of Elon Musk to usher in a Tesla-like experience. What was really clever, and I've advocated for this for years, publicly spoken about it, written about embracing the Las Vegas to have experiences. Zoox this week announced a partnership with the Vegas Knights, the Golden Knights, where they're going to integrate the service. But then you read the fine print here in the news thing. It says the service will launch in 2025. They delayed the service. First they said soon, then they said 2024 when they put Ed Ludlow from Bloomberg in. And now they're saying they're going to launch in 2025. It's another deadline, unfortunately missed. Then, me being this sleuth or whatever word, if you want to call me Detective Grayson, I watched the video. It's not running on the Strip. It's running in rural parts of Vegas. Well, the Golden Knights play on the Strip.
Whoa. What? So how does the partnership work then? It's just going to have the branding of the Golden Knights on the side of the Zoox? Or what is the partnership?
Again, this seems like it's an ongoing theme, and I know the Zoox executives. I know you listen. I read your private messages you send me. Please give some clarity. This is not the first time a mascot's been in an autonomous vehicle. About 6 years ago, SAE partnered with the Tampa Bay Lightning, a competitor to the Golden Knights, and we put the mascot in an autonomous vehicle in Tampa, and we drove around. We also put the Tampa Bay Rays mascot in. So mascot thing's been done. This is Vegas. You want to gamble, you want to drink, you want to eat good food, you're going to go down the Strip if you're a tourist. The Zoox mobile could be a tourist mobile, for a matter of fact. But get your marketing right. Don't just run it in suburban Vegas and put a hockey player in it. It doesn't work.
If Zoox is listening, Grayson, let me just put a little personal play. I'm going to be on the West Coast. LA is, I consider, close enough to the West Coast. I can drop in if you want to give me a Zoox ride in LA or any other autonomy options that are out there. I think Mobile World Congress has a big show in Vegas next week, so I can set up some meetings, hop in some autonomous cars and a Zoox. Not by the Hoover Dam. I want to go on the Strip. I want to try the Strip. And I think actually Vegas should be easy because even though there's a bunch of drunk idiots running around, they have them kind of fenced off on the Strip, right? It's very hard to cross the Strip, right? If you're drunk, you're just running into one of those metal gates or landing in the fountain at the Bellagio.
And you're getting fished out and thrown in the tank with them.
Thrown in a Zoox and sent home. Or maybe Zoox should have a partnership with the local hospital so they'll just scrape up the people, toss them in the Zoox, and they can take them autonomously to the hospital so no one has to deal with them. Although then you have the cleaning aspect of it. All right, what else are we talking about this week, Grayson?
There's a lot going on this week. I'll stay on Zoox for a minute here. When does Amazon give any clarity? I tweeted Andy Jassy today asking for clarity as an Amazon shareholder, but when do they give some sort of clarity? They're spending billions of dollars. Waymo gives a little bit of insight, not a lot, but you're seeing massive progress. GM gives insight to Cruise, where inside of Amazon, it's a black box. Mr. Jassy can just make a simple statement. We're preparing to launch service in 2025. We're going to launch with X amount of vehicles. But yet crickets from Mr. Jassy and the Amazon IR team.
I would go back to the light shed party. And you talk to institutional investors. They care about this stuff. They're investors in a lot of these different companies for various reasons. They want to know. And to the extent that Uber continues to make announcements, and if Elon makes announcements, because people have forgotten about the Robotaxi, right? They like to, everyone likes to kind of Jones on Elon for promising the Robotaxi years ago. But if we're more tangible, even with a safety driver, there's going to be more pressure, more questions. And I think at that point, the senior management team at Amazon maybe starts making calls down to, where are they? Mountain View, I guess?
Foster City, pardon me.
So, and saying like, what's going on, guys? Let's get something more than driving a mascot to the Hoover Dam, I guess. Because
the competition's ramping up. Yandex's former head of self-driving, which is the Russian self-driving car, launched a company, Avride. And lo and behold, another day, another Uber Autonomy platform deal. Uber announced today Avride will be operating on the Uber platform starting in 2025 in Dallas. You'll be able to hail a ride in the Avride autonomous vehicle. Avride is claiming, can't verify this, that they have 10 million miles on public roads of testing. They're running on the Hyundai Ioniq 5, which is the old emotional vehicle.
Yeah, it's a good car. I like that car.
It's got a lot of room for you. It's comfy.
Yep. Yes, it does. I like that better than the Jaguar.
And they're also going to do, starting in Austin in this week, they're going to do autonomous sidewalk delivery on the Uber platform for Uber Eats. Uber's just cornering this market. I know we talk a lot about this, but another day, another deal. And you look at Lyft, crickets. Is that ever change? Does Risher have to make a move?
I don't know. I mean, I think earnings are coming up again every 90 days. So I'm sure that question is going to get asked of Risher, the CEO, on the earnings call. Like, hey, since the last earnings call, your buddy over at Uber, Dara, has signed up X, Y, Z, and D, and B, and, God knows how many other. Where are you at on this? So, yeah, there'll be more pressure on them to do something. What do you on the sidewalk deliveries? Where do you come out on that, Grayson? Because it seems like, I forget what market someone was telling me that they're just like, I think maybe it's LA. Do they have sidewalk deliveries where they were just backing up and there's problems? And it just feels like they're more likely to be vandalized and create issues. Why not just have cars do it and put it in the trunk of a car and have it go to the restaurant and operate on the roads that it can already operate, rather than cluttering up the sidewalks and being another like scooter disaster like we had from 5 years ago, where it was just scooter trash everywhere and in the rivers and everything else.
I'm not a big fan of sidewalk bots. I don't feel that they work, and I've gotten pushback from listeners and a friend. His son is at SMU, and he said on campus they're great for the kids. They're bringing them food at all sorts of hours.
They like them there. Okay, good.
They like them on campus. And controlled environments, I could see that, because my son's studying, and he just orders it up and the robot delivers some dinner at night. He doesn't have to go down. He just goes down to the door. That I get a controlled environments. But from the investor standpoint, to me, that's uninvestable. But NVIDIA invested in Swerve Robotics. They cut a deal with Wing this week where, talk about an odd duckling partnership. A Wing autonomous drone. I played with the Wing drones. I've seen them in action in Dallas. Google was very kind to host me for that. Then the Wing drone lands, drops the package, and it goes into a Swerve Robotics. For that last one, I don't really see that, though. I just think it's kind of a niche play where, if you look at the market, Neuro's bots unfortunately never worked, and they were able to go 40 miles an hour on the street, and they never worked.
Yeah, I mean, drones are interesting. It's a little bit more complex because of the battery technology that exists, noise issues, to the extent that has been solved or not solved. Certainly, that's going to be a big topic for us here on Autonomy Markets, and going forward, it's certainly an area of interest that we're on the venture side as well as the public side looking to try and find the companies, whether you're carrying people or packages. It's definitely something. I'm going to reserve judgment at the moment, because I've definitely heard some very material bear cases on why this is not going to work, and the size of like the helicopter market as kind of a comp in the market. But I've also heard some very compelling bull cases. So we'll continue to scratch this topic in the weeks and months and years What do you think? Years to come on autonomy markets?
Oh yeah, here's to come. We're going to the moon, baby. We're not slowing down. We're taking that Falcon 9 rocket up.
Autonomy markets will only end when Elon flies to Mars. Then we'll call it quits.
Maybe, or maybe we'll try and get a ride on the rocket and record from space, which would be fun. If you look at the eVTOL helicopter market, this is all public filings. Look at Blade. They're a body part medical delivery company. That's how they make all their money. They don't make it on that JFK Manhattan run. They make it on delivering body parts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we've talked about this before on this podcast, but if you read a lot of the books on disruptors, a lot of times markets, you are initially funded and determined by a segment of the market, in this case, medical devices or whatever it is. And then it proves it out, and then the market expands to other type of applications.
Yeah, we'll see. The eVTOL, I heard Judgment, and I had a very interesting conversation with, and again, back to the light shed part, with individuals concerned about battery degradation from the quick charging. And I don't have the math to share with our audience here, but I think that's something very interesting to watch.
Let's put a pin in that. Well, let's put a pin in that. I think we'll have more to say and learn about that in the months to come.
When you look at changing markets, changing business models, and to go back to trucking here, Shouty Ho's back. He just raised $20 million for Bot Auto. He's building autonomous trucks again.
When you say back, where was he before?
He was the co-founder of Too Simple, and we saw what happened at Too Simple.
Grayson, I am expanding your listenership, so not everyone that is now listening may be familiar with the Too Simple drama. Can you just give us a quick summary of the Too Simple drama?
I will summarize it. This is going to sound like a book now. I'm putting on my book.
No. Keep it. Give us the highlights.
The highlights was it was a series of unfortunate events and decisions made by several individuals that ultimately led to a collapse of a company, and the company has been delisted. A public company that's been delisted. They went public under the ticker TSP. Morgan Stanley took them public, raised $1.2 billion in the IPO. The technology was the furthest along at that time for autonomous trucking. The tech was brilliant. The tech worked. They were able to go dock to dock.
So you had no issues with the tech. You don't think that's the reason? It was the drama of the management team, not necessarily the technology.
The drama of the management team and the drama of the board. And if our listeners and viewers want, there are court filings that delve into all that drama. But that aside, the technology worked, and Shouty's building it again. He's raised $20 million. If he can get to the same level where Too Simple was, very, very interesting. And this time he's doing it differently. And I got to give him a lot of credit. He said, I'm not going to rely on carriers. I'm not going to rely on shippers. I'm going to build transportation as a service, and I'm going to do it my way. That gets very interesting if that can scale, because the old Too Simple model was built on partnerships. Now he's saying we're going to do it all in-house. And if he does it in-house, this goes back to Dar being a master deal maker. Shouty and the bot team can go to Uber Freight and get plenty of capacity and carry it. And then they're not going to have to worry of dealing with the traditional trucking companies in the world. Which, if you really look at it, Uber could end up cannibalizing the trucking market and becoming the biggest player in trucking, which becomes very interesting.
Sure, and that was a pitch back to in the IPO days. First, it was connecting dead end trips to return trips for the drivers. Now it's, if you can throw autonomy in there, you don't even have to have the driver go for these long trips in between and give them the rides that they want and benefit from. And yeah, I think well, Uber downplays it, and I think even it's possible. I guess they could sell it, and the market would like that. It's probably better that it's enough selling. Enough getting. It's time to rebuild our. You have to have you have your cash flow, you have earnings, you got a great stock price. Now start to use your power in the market to continue to layer on additional things. And so maybe the partner, and other people out there talking heads, oh, the market needs to consolidate. And you've definitely had some obvious failures and some consolidation, but it's good to see new money going into new companies, or at least revivals of technology, because that's great. You need that type of competition to keep the entire industry moving forward, for sure.
You need competition, and if all goes according to plan, this is all according to plan, Aurora, which is largest shareholder is Uber, the Uber Freight network will run autonomous trucks from Dallas to Houston with no driver by the end of the year, hauling Uber Freight. That could become a pretty big catalyst for this market as we go into 2025 and 2026.
Love it. Let's make it happen.
A lot of stuff's happening. We got earnings season coming up. We've got 10/10 coming up. We have 10/8 GM's Investor Day coming up. What should our audience look for over the coming week?
That's a lot of things right there. That's what they should look for, Grayson. Next week is the big week. Surprise announcements, earnings of more autonomous questions on the Uber and Lyft call, as well as the countless other companies that are public as the interest increases. It's an exciting time to be an investor looking at this space, because we've got a lot of good stuff, I think, coming up in the days and weeks ahead. You don't even have to talk about months and years, the days and weeks ahead. So I'm glad this podcast is working. Our viewership and listenership is growing and dedicated, because we're gonna be even more excited to talk about this stuff in the weeks to come.
Yeah, and to our audience, listeners, viewers, please keep the feedback coming. Please keep the comments coming. We'll keep integrating. We're gonna keep scaling, because the future is bright. The future is autonomous. The future is scaling profitable autonomous vehicle and truck companies. Until next week. Walt, fun as always.
Peace out.